my name is Alina Mercer. And the last thing my father ever gave me was a lesson. Not about money, not about power. About how easy it is to disappear. Huh. He died on a Tuesday morning. No warning, no illness, no goodbye. Just a phone call at 6:12 a.m. And by the time I got there, they were already covering his face. Helena was standing beside the bed. Of course she was. Perfect posture, perfect silence, perfect grief. She didn't cry loudly, didn't collapse. She held my arm, lightly. Not to comfort me, to guide me, out of the room. I remember looking back once, just once. Because something felt wrong, not the death, something else, something that didn't belong to grief. Control. The funeral was 2 days later, private, efficient, clean. People came in black, spoke softly, left quickly, and no one asked me anything. They asked her. About the company. About the estate. About what happens next. 3 days after my father died, she already had answers. That was the moment, because grief doesn't plan ahead, but she did. 3 days later, she called me into his office. Not asked, called. The room hadn't changed. Not the chair, not the desk, not the pen he left behind. But something else had. Her position. She stood where I used to stand, near the window, where my father would look when he was thinking. And next to her was a man I had seen before, years ago, standing behind a senior lawyer, silent, watching. He looked older now, sharper, but his eyes were the same, aware. Sit down, Alina. I didn't move immediately, because something inside me knew. But I sat anyway. She placed a document in front of me, slowly, carefully, perfectly aligned. Sign. No explanation, no context, just that. I didn't touch it. What is it? A formality. I looked down, and everything inside me slowed. Waiver of inheritance, full relinquishment, immediate effect, irrevocable. The words didn't hit all at once. They sank in, slow, heavy. I read it again, then I looked up. No. She smiled, soft, measured. Are you sure? Yes. She stepped closer, not loud, not aggressive, controlled. You're very young, Alina. Her eyes held mine. You don't understand how complicated these things are. I understand enough. A pause, and then she said it, quiet, gentle, final. Then you won't exist here anymore. Not shouted, not threatened, stated. Because she wasn't asking. She was telling me what had already been decided. That was the moment something inside me shifted. Not fear, not anger, recognition. I stood up, and for a second, I thought this mattered, that this choice would change something. I was wrong, because the decision had already been made. 3 days later, we sat in the same room again. This time, it was official, the will reading. The senior lawyer spoke, clear, professional, detached. Assets, companies, accounts, everything listed, everything assigned, to Helena. I waited, for my name, a mention, a clause, a percentage, anything. Nothing came. I believe that concludes the document. Silence. That's it? I asked. No one answered right away. Then, that's it. I turned to Helena. She didn't look at me. I want to see the documents. Of course. Too easy. She slid a paper toward me, and the moment I looked down, everything stopped. My signature. Perfect, clean, real, except it wasn't. I didn't sign this. Silence. That's not my signature. It matches your records. No. I turned, slowly, to him, the only person in that room who had seen me refuse. You were there. Our eyes met, and for the first time, I saw it. Not confusion, not denial, guilt. His fingers tightened around the file in his hand. His jaw moved slightly, like he was about to speak. But he didn't. And that was the moment I understood everything. Not that I had lost the inheritance, not that I had lost the house, but that I had already been erased. And no one in that room was going to say otherwise. You have 48 hours, Helena said. I didn't answer, because there was nothing left to say. I walked out of the room, but something followed me. Not fear, not anger, a question. If I never signed it, then when did I disappear? And I didn't know yet that someone else had started asking the same question, from the moment I walked out. I didn't cry after that, not in the hallway, not in my room. Because something inside me had already gone quiet, not numb, precise. I walked back to my room, slowly. Every step felt measured, like if I moved too fast, this would become real. The door was slightly open. That stopped me. I never left it open, not in that house. I pushed it wider, and everything inside me shifted. Half my closet was empty. Not messy, not rushed, clean. Hangers spaced out, shoes gone, drawers pulled open and left that way. Like someone had already decided what I was allowed to keep. I stood there for a long time. Because this wasn't preparation. This was execution. A knock, I turned. One of the house staff stood at the door, eyes lowered, hands clasped. We were told to assist you. Assist. That word almost made me laugh. Huh, I didn't ask for help. I understand. She didn't leave, didn't step in either, just waited. Because she wasn't waiting for me. She was waiting for permission to continue removing me. I'll do it myself. A pause, then she nodded, stepped back. But before she left, she looked at me, just for a second. And in that look I saw it, not pity, distance. Like I had already become something else, something temporary, something that didn't belong. I closed the door, locked it, then leaned against it. And for the first time, I felt it. Not sadness, not yet, pressure. Like the walls were closing in, not on the room, on me. I started packing, not fast, not because I had time. Because every item I touched felt like proof that I had existed here, once. A book my father gave me when I was 10, I opened it, his handwriting inside. Stay sharp. I closed it, placed it in the box. A pen, one he forgot to take back after a meeting. I had kept it. Not because it was valuable, because it was his. That went into the box too. Then, a photo. I froze. 3 people, before Helena, my mother, my father, me. I stared at it, longer than I should have, then placed it carefully between clothes, like it could break. Hours passed, no one knocked again, no one checked on me. Because they didn't need to. I was leaving, that was already decided. By the time the sun went down, 3 boxes, 1 suitcase, that was everything. Everything they allowed me to take. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on the floor, back against the bed. Because I didn't want to lie on it, it didn't feel like mine anymore. Around midnight, I heard something. Footsteps, outside my door, slow, then stopping, right in front of it. I didn't move, didn't breathe, the handle didn't turn, but I knew someone was there, waiting, listening. Then, the sound faded, gone. I stayed awake until morning, because something inside me said this wasn't over yet. Morning came too fast. I carried the first box downstairs. No one offered to help, no one opened the door, I did it myself. Second box, third. By the time I came back for the last one, my arms were shaking. Not from the weight, from something else, finality. As I reached the front door, it opened. Helena, of course. Perfect as always, she looked at the boxes, then at me. Be careful with the floors. I blinked. What? The boxes. A small gesture. They might scratch. I stared at her, and something inside me went completely still. Not anger, not pain, clarity. I'll be careful. She nodded, like this was normal, like this was reasonable. Like I wasn't being erased, just relocated. I stepped past her, placed the box outside, then stopped. Something pulled me back, not the house, the office. I turned, walked back inside, straight down the hallway. The door was closed. I opened it anyway, and froze. Everything was gone. The desk cleared, the papers missing, the pen gone. Like he had never been there, like he had never existed, like this room had already been rewritten. You shouldn't be in here. I turned, him, the lawyer, standing at the door. For the first time, alone, no Helena, no senior partner, just him. You saw what happened, I said. He didn't answer, just stepped inside, closed the door behind him. I know you did. A pause. His hand tightened around the file he was holding. I can't help you. The words were quiet, but they hit harder than anything else. Can't or won't? He looked at me, really looked, and this time, he didn't look away. If I speak now, a pause, it won't change anything. And if you don't? Silence. Then nothing changes either. There it was, not cruelty, not betrayal, truth. And somehow, that made it worse. Because it meant he wasn't choosing her. He was choosing survival, just like everyone else. I nodded. Then I guess we're both leaving this room empty. Something shifted in his expression, small, almost invisible, but real. Regret. I walked past him, and this time, I didn't stop. Because staying was no longer an option. But I didn't know yet that he wouldn't leave it behind, not like I had to, not like I thought. Because while I was walking away, he was starting to watch, and he wouldn't stop, not for 8 years. The door closed behind me, soft, clean, final. I stood on the front steps with 3 boxes and 1 suitcase. That was everything I had left. No car, no driver, no one waiting. Just a house behind me that no longer knew my name. For a moment, I thought about turning back. Not to fight, not to argue. Just to exist there a little longer. But then I remembered the closet, half empty before I even touched it. I wasn't leaving, I had already been removed. So I walked. The first hour didn't feel real. The second hour hurt. By the third, my hands were numb. I found a motel, cash only, no questions. The kind of place people go when they don't want to be remembered. Room 12. The door stuck when I pushed it open. Inside a bed, a chair, a window that didn't close properly, that was it. I set the boxes down slowly, then sat, and for the first time, I did nothing. No crying, no panic, just stillness. Because when something is taken all at once, your body doesn't know how to react. It pauses. That night, I didn't unpack. I lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the people next door, laughing, watching TV, living like nothing had happened. And that broke something. Because the world didn't stop, not even for a second. The next morning, reality arrived. Numbers. I checked my account. $2,143. That was it. Everything else, gone. I called the bank. Your access has been revoked. I need to speak to someone. You already are. I'm listed on that account. Not anymore. Click. That was the moment. Not fear, pressure. Because now, everything I had left was measurable. Days, weeks, maybe months. If I was careful, if I was lucky. I got a job that same week, a cafe, minimum wage, long hours. The manager didn't ask questions, didn't care. I showed up, I worked, that was enough. I learned quickly how to move without thinking, how to smile without meaning it, how to exist without being seen. At night, I studied. Not for school, not for a degree, for understanding. Contracts, finance, legal structure. Because one thing stayed with me, that signature, mine, that I never wrote. And the more I learned, the more I understood something. Paper doesn't lie, people do. And if paper says something exists, then to the world, it exists, even if it's not real. Months passed. I stopped checking the news, stopped thinking about Helena. Because I already knew. She was living exactly what she built, and I was living what she removed. But something changed around month 4. It was small, a shift. I stopped asking why, and started asking how. How did she do it? How did it hold legally? How did no one question it? And more importantly, how do I break it? That question became everything. I changed jobs. Office assistant. Small firm. Nothing impressive, but access. Files, processes, decisions. I watched everything. How contracts were structured, how they were verified, where mistakes happened. Because they always did. That was the first lesson. No system is perfect. Not even the one that erased me. Years blurred, not fast, just steady. By year 3, I wasn't struggling. By year 5, I was useful. People started listening, because I didn't guess, I knew. And by year 8, I had something I didn't have before, control. Not inherited, built. I had an office, a team, a name people recognized. And still, I had no answer. Because no matter how much I learned, one thing didn't change. That signature, still real, still valid, still mine, even though it wasn't. And then, my phone rang, unknown number. I almost didn't answer, almost. But something I couldn't explain, made me pick it up. Hello? Silence. Then, I was there. My heart stopped, because I knew that voice, even after 8 years. I saw you refuse. Everything inside me went still, not fear, recognition. Who is this? A pause, then, Daniel Reyes. The man who said nothing. I think, another pause, you never signed it. And just like that, the past wasn't gone, it had been waiting, for someone else to say it out loud. For a moment, I didn't speak. Not because I didn't believe him, because I did. And that was more dangerous. I saw you refuse, he said it again, calm, certain. 8 years. And those were still the first words he chose. I remember, I said. A pause. Do you? Yes. Silence stretched between us. Because memory is different when you're the one who lost everything. Then why now? I asked. The question came out colder than I expected, not angry, measured. Because I didn't want emotion, I wanted truth. I didn't have proof. I leaned back slightly. And now you do? Yes. Simple. Too simple. Come see it, he said. No explanation, no hesitation, just a door, opening. I looked at my screen. Emails, reports, numbers, everything I had built over 8 years. And suddenly, none of it mattered. Because the one thing I never solved was calling me back. Where? I asked. He sent the address. The call ended. No goodbye. Just like the first time. I didn't move for a long time. Because I understood something. If this was real, then everything I had spent 8 years burying was about to come back. And this time, I wouldn't be able to walk away. The office was smaller than I expected, not impressive, not powerful. But clean, deliberate. I stepped inside. He was already there, standing by the table, file in his hand. He looked up, and for a second, we just stood there. 8 years, reduced to silence. You came. I didn't forget. A flicker in his eyes, not surprise, recognition. Sit. I didn't. Show me first. A small pause, then he nodded, placed the file down, opened it, turned it toward me. 2 documents, side by side. One, I recognized immediately, the version from that day, my signature, the one that erased me. The other looked identical, same structure, same wording. But something was missing. I leaned closer, my eyes moved slowly, line by line, then stopped. No waiver, no signature, nothing. This is the original draft, Daniel said. My hands didn't move, because I already understood. And that one, he tapped the second document, was altered. The word didn't feel big enough. Altered. Like something minor, something fixable, not something that destroyed 8 years of a life. How? I asked. Scan and replace. He pulled out another sheet, technical, precise. Your signature was taken from an academic record. My breath caught. A scanned copy, clean. My chest tightened. Because suddenly, this wasn't abstract anymore. Someone had gone back into my past, taken something real, and used it to make a lie permanent. They layered it into the document. Another page, then adjusted timestamps. Another, replaced the archived file. I stared at the table, at my name. At something that looked so real, it had erased me. And no one saw this? I asked. I did. I looked up. And you said nothing? There it was again, the same question, the same wound. I tried, he said. I waited. I raised concerns. And? I was removed from the case the next day. Of course. And warned. I narrowed my eyes. About what? About asking questions that didn't belong to me. That sounded familiar. Too familiar. And you listened. Silence, yes. I almost smiled, not because it was funny, because it made sense. Huh, that's what people do, they survive, just like I did. So why continue? I asked. Because that part didn't make sense. 8 years. That wasn't your job anymore. No. Then why? He didn't answer immediately, just watched me, carefully. Because you were right. I frowned slightly. About what? You didn't sign it. A pause, and I let that stand. There it was, not guilt, responsibility. And something about that felt different. Because he wasn't asking for forgiveness, he was explaining why he came back. I kept copies, he said. That pulled me forward. What? Before they removed me. He opened another folder. Emails, internal memos, metadata logs, everything. I didn't know when I'd need them. A pause, but I knew I would. I looked at him, really looked. Not the quiet man from that room, someone else, someone who didn't forget. Even when it would have been easier. You spent 8 years on this. Yes. Why? The question came out softer than I expected. Because now, I wasn't asking, as the girl who lost everything. I was asking as someone who understood what 8 years costs. He held my gaze, because it was wrong. Simple, no performance, no explanation, just truth. And for the first time since that day, I didn't feel alone in it anymore. What happens now? I asked. He closed the file slowly. Now we decide, a pause, how to take it back. Not if, how. And just like that, everything I had buried came back, stronger, sharper. And this time I wasn't walking away, I was coming back. We didn't go back the next day. Or the next week. That would have been a mistake. 8 years ago, I reacted, too fast, too alone, too easy to dismiss. This time we built something they couldn't ignore. Start with movement, Daniel said. I looked at him. What? Money never stays still. Of course. Lies sit quietly on paper. But money moves, and movement leaves patterns. We started there. Every transfer, every account, every company Helena touched. Layer by layer, a structure appeared, clean on the surface, complicated underneath. She didn't just take the inheritance, Daniel said. She redistributed it. I leaned closer to the screen. Properties, shell companies, trust accounts, all connected. She built distance, I said. Yes. Enough to make it look unrelated. Exactly. I sat back slowly. She planned this. Not after my father died. Before. Silence settled between us, because we both understood what that meant. She wasn't reacting to opportunity. She created it. How long? I asked. Daniel didn't answer immediately. Then, at least a year. A year. That meant dinners, conversations, smiles. All of it, while she was building a way to erase me. And no one saw it. Or no one said anything. What about the senior lawyer? I asked. Retired. Of course he was. Before or after the transfers? After. Convenient. And the files? Closed. Dead cases don't reopen, unless someone forces them to. I leaned forward again, then we force it. A flicker in his eyes, approval. Yes. But then, not yet. I frowned. Why? Because right now you have a story. A pause. We need something stronger than that. I looked down at the documents. This isn't enough? For conversation? Yes. For court? No. Of course, truth isn't enough. It has to be undeniable. What are we missing? I asked. Timing. I looked at him. What does that mean? It means we wait until she can't move anymore. I didn't like that. Waiting gave her 8 years. And rushing would give her a way out. Silence. Because I knew he was right. And I hated that. How long? I asked. A few months. I exhaled slowly. After 8 years, a few months shouldn't matter. But now, it did. Ugh. Because now I knew the truth was real. And waiting felt heavier than not knowing. You don't have to do this, Daniel said. I looked up. What? You've already built something. A pause. You don't need this to move forward. There it was, the exit, the easier path. Walk away, keep my life, leave the past behind. For a second, I considered it. Not because I wanted to, because I understood it. Peace is easier than truth, but only when truth stays buried. Mine never did. I'm not doing this for the money, I said. I know. I'm doing it because, I paused. Because saying it out loud made it permanent. They erased me. Silence. And I need to fix that. Not destroy her, not punish her, fix it. Because something like that doesn't stay in the past, it stays in you. Daniel nodded. Then close the file. Then we do it properly. And that was the difference. 8 years ago I was reacting, now I was building something. Not a life, a case. The months that followed were quiet, no confrontation, no contact, just work. Late nights, early mornings, data, documents, patterns. We tracked everything, every transaction, every inconsistency. And slowly, the cracks appeared. She moved this property too early, Daniel said one night. I looked at the screen. The clause would have frozen it. Even though the clause was removed, the timing still exposed it. Because actions leave traces, even when documents lie. We found more. Small things, but enough, more than enough. And then, we found something else, something buried, almost deleted. An email, from the senior lawyer, to Helena, subject line, signature file confirmed. My chest tightened. Daniel opened it, we read in silence. I've attached the revised document with her signature applied. Applied. Not obtained, applied. The room went still. Because that wasn't evidence, that was admission, written, permanent. That's it, I said. Daniel didn't answer, just stared at the screen. Then, no. I frowned. What do you mean no? This proves the past, a pause, but we need to control the present. I leaned back. What are we waiting for? He turned to me. For the moment she can't escape. And that's when I understood. This wasn't just about exposing the truth, it was about timing it so she had nowhere left to hide. Because people like Helena don't lose when they're caught, they lose when they have no options left. So when? I asked. Daniel held my gaze. Soon. A pause. Very soon. And for the first time in 8 years I felt it. Not anger, not pain, control. Because this time, I wasn't the one being removed. I was the one deciding when everything would collapse. Soon came 3 weeks later. Not with noise. Not with warning. With a document. Daniel placed it in front of me without saying anything. I looked down. A draft. Private circulation. Not public yet. Mercer Legacy Foundation. Launch event. Date. Location. Guest list. Investors. Media. Board members. Everything. All built on my father's name. Using everything she took. She's consolidating, Daniel said. I looked up. What? She's pulling everything back under one structure. That didn't make sense. Why would she do that? Because she thinks she's safe. A pause. Or because she's about to make it permanent. I scanned the page again. The event was big, public, visible, untouchable. Once something like this launches, it becomes real. And once it becomes real, it becomes harder to undo. She's turning it into legacy, I said quietly. Daniel nodded. Yes. Of course she was. Because if she couldn't hide it anymore, she would anchor it. Build something so visible that no one would question how it started. When is it? I asked. 10 days. 10 days, after 8 years, that was the window. That's when we do it. Daniel didn't hesitate. Yes. No debate, no delay, because we both understood. This wasn't just a legal move anymore, this was exposure, public, irreversible. The next 10 days didn't feel long, they felt sharp. Every detail mattered. We built everything: documents, timelines, verification reports. Not just enough to prove her wrong, enough to make it impossible for her to deny it. Because denial only works in private, and we were about to take this public. What's the plan? I asked. Daniel looked at me. You walk in, a pause, and you take your place. I didn't smile. Because this wasn't victory. This was correction. And you? I stand with you. Not behind, not watching, with me. That mattered more than I expected. The night before the event, I didn't sleep. Not from nerves, from clarity. Every moment from 8 years ago came back. The office, the paper, the signature. His silence. And now, his voice, full circle. Morning came quietly. I stood in front of the mirror. Not checking how I looked, recognizing who I had become. 8 years ago, I walked out with a suitcase. Today I was walking back in with proof. That was the difference. The venue was exactly what I expected: large, polished, controlled. Security at the entrance, media outside. Inside, people who believed in something that wasn't real. I stepped out of the car, no hesitation, no pause. Because if I stopped, it would feel like before, and this wasn't before. Daniel walked beside me, same pace, same silence, but not the same man. Ready? He asked. I looked ahead, at the doors, at the people, at the life that replaced me. Yes. Because ready isn't a feeling, it's a decision. We walked in, the room shifted. Not loudly, but enough. Eyes moved, recognition, confusion. Because I wasn't supposed to be there, and yet, I was. Helena stood at the center, surrounded, admired, untouchable. Until she saw me, and everything paused. Not the room, her, just for a second, but it was enough. Because in that second, I saw it. Not control, fear. Small, hidden, but real. She recovered quickly. Of course she did. People like her always do. But the crack was already there. You shouldn't be here. Same words, different meaning. I stepped closer, calm, measured. I know. A pause, but I am. Eyes turned, people listened. Because tone matters, and mine wasn't emotional, it was certain. This event should be delayed. A ripple moved through the room. Confusion, whispers. Helena's smile tightened. Excuse me? I held her gaze. There are legal issues that need to be addressed. Silence. Then, everything has been reviewed. Of course it had, by people who believed the same lie. Not everything. Daniel's voice, clear. And that's when the room changed, because now it wasn't just me, it was him. Standing beside me, not silent anymore, not watching, speaking. Helena turned, and for the first time, she didn't understand what was happening. Because this was never part of her plan. "Who are you?" she asked. Daniel stepped forward, calm. Someone who saw the original file. The room stilled. Because truth has weight, even before people understand it. "What are you implying?" Helena said. Her voice was steady, but something underneath shifted. Daniel didn't raise his voice. The inheritance documents were altered. Silence, complete. Because once that word enters a room, it doesn't leave quietly. Helena smiled again, controlled, perfect. "That's a serious accusation." "Yes," Daniel said, "it is." A pause, and we have proof. And just like that, everything she built started to move. Not collapse, not yet, but shift. In a way that couldn't be stopped. The room didn't explode, it narrowed. Like every conversation that had been happening collapsed into one point, her, and me, and him. Helena didn't react immediately. She lifted her glass, took a slow sip, buying time. Then smiled. "A misunderstanding," she said. "Of course, because the first defense of a lie is always to make it smaller." "There's no misunderstanding," Daniel replied. Still calm, still controlled, but something had changed. He wasn't the man from that room 8 years ago anymore. He didn't wait for permission to speak. "Then I suggest we discuss this privately," Helena said. There it was, the pivot, pull it out of the room, contain it, control it. "No." One word, and everything shifted. Because now, this wasn't a conversation. It was exposure. "This concerns the legal ownership of the Mercer estate," Daniel continued. A ripple moved through the room, investors leaned in, media raised their phones. Because money listens, and power follows it. Helena's smile held. But her fingers tightened around the glass, barely. "Unless you were watching, I was." "You're out of line," she said. Not loud, but sharper. Daniel stepped forward. "No." A pause. "I was out of line 8 years ago." Silence. "Today I'm correcting it." That landed. Because that wasn't just a statement. That was a decision. "What exactly are you accusing me of?" Helena asked. Her voice still steady, but something underneath moved. Daniel didn't answer right away. He opened the file and placed the first document on the table. "This is the version presented during the will reading, then another, and this is the original draft." Side by side, 2 truths, only one real. Helena didn't look at the papers, she looked at me. And for a second, just a second, I saw it. Recognition. Not of the situation, of me. "You brought him here," she said. Not a question, an accusation. I didn't answer, because I didn't need to. The truth would. Daniel tapped the second document. "This version contains no waiver." A pause, no signature. Every word measured, precise. "This one," he tapped the other, "was altered." Silence. "Then, that's impossible." "Too fast, too clean, because truth doesn't rush." "Is it?" Daniel said. He slid another paper forward. Forensic analysis, another. Metadata comparison, another. Timestamp discrepancies. The table filled, not dramatically, methodically. Because this wasn't a performance, it was dismantling. Helena's eyes flickered. Not panic, calculation, looking for an exit. There wasn't one. "Even if that were true," she said slowly, "it doesn't change the legality of what exists now." There it was. The fallback. Shift forward. Ignore the origin. Focus on the present. Daniel nodded. You're right. A pause. It doesn't. She relaxed, just slightly. Then, it invalidates everything built on it. And just like that, the ground moved. Because now, this wasn't about a document, it was about everything. Every property, every account, every decision. All of it standing on something false. That's not how this works, Helena said. But this time, her voice wasn't as steady. It is, Daniel replied, calm, certain. And we've already filed to reopen the case. That was the moment, not the accusation, not the evidence, the action. Because now this wasn't contained in this room, it was moving, legally, irreversibly. Helena turned to me, and for the first time, there was no mask. Do you understand what you're doing? She asked. Her voice dropped, lower, sharper. I stepped closer, close enough that only she could hear me. Yes, a pause, I'm fixing it. Her eyes searched mine, for hesitation, for doubt. There was none, because 8 years had taken that from me. You should have signed, she whispered. There it was, not denial, not defense, regret. Because if I had signed, none of this would exist. I smiled, small, controlled. You should have waited. Her breath caught, just slightly. Because now, she understood, this wasn't something she could control. This wasn't something she could manage, this was something she had already lost. The room began to move again, whispers, phones, messages. Because truth spreads faster than lies. Daniel closed the file. We'll be in touch. Not to her, to the room. Because now, this belonged to everyone. Helena didn't stop us, didn't call security, didn't raise her voice. Because she knew that would only make it worse. So she stood there, perfect posture, perfect silence. As everything around her started to collapse. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I had come back to take something. I felt like I had come back to end something. But I didn't know yet that the hardest part was still ahead. The headlines didn't wait. They never do. By the time we stepped outside, phones were already moving, messages sent, calls made, stories drafted. Not public yet, but inevitable. That's it, Daniel said quietly. I didn't answer, because I knew that wasn't true. This wasn't over, not yet. We got into the car. Silence filled the space. Not heavy, just full. You did exactly what needed to be done, he added. I looked out the window, people walking, cars passing, normal. Like the world hadn't just shifted. I thought it would feel different, I said. How? Louder. A pause. Clearer. He nodded slightly. It rarely is. Of course, because endings don't feel like endings, they feel like continuation. Just in a different direction. The first official statement came that night. Due to unforeseen legal concerns, the foundation launch was postponed. Not cancelled, but everyone knew. It wouldn't happen. Not like this. Not anymore. The investigation opened within 48 hours. Fast. Because now this wasn't private, it was public. And once something becomes public, it becomes urgent. Documents were requested, accounts reviewed, every movement traced. And slowly everything Helena built started to unravel. Not all at once, thread by thread. Because structures like hers don't collapse loudly, they collapse precisely. First reversal, Daniel said 3 days later. I looked at the report, a property, returned, then another, then accounts. Numbers shifting, ownership changing, control returning. Not to her, to me. And still, I didn't feel what I expected. No satisfaction, no relief, just movement. Like something that had been paused was finally continuing. She's contesting, he added. Of course she was. How strong? Not enough. Because denial only stretches so far when truth is documented. Weeks passed, the case expanded. More evidence surfaced, more inconsistencies revealed. And then, we found the last piece. Not in the main files, not in the financial records, buried, deep. A backup archive, something that shouldn't have survived, but did. Daniel opened it slowly, carefully, like it might disappear if he rushed. Then, there it was, a recording, no video, just audio, time-stamped. 2 days before my father died, my chest tightened. Play it. He hesitated, just for a second, then pressed the button. Static. Then his voice, my father, clear, calm. I don't trust her. Everything inside me froze. I want the clause added. Paper shifting. If anything happens to me, everything freezes. Another voice, the senior lawyer. Are you sure? Yes. Firm, certain. And Alina? A longer pause. 2 days before my father died, my chest tightened. Play it. He hesitated, just for a second, then pressed the button. Static. Then his voice, my father, clear, calm. I don't trust her. Everything inside me froze. I want the clause added. Paper shifting. If anything happens to me, everything freezes. Another voice, the senior lawyer. Are you sure? Yes. Firm, certain. And Alina? A longer pause. She stays. 3 words. That was all it took. She stays. The recording ended. Silence filled the room, not empty, heavy. Because that wasn't just evidence, that was him, his voice, his decision. Untouched, unchanged. I didn't move, didn't speak. Because suddenly, this wasn't about me anymore, it was about him. And what had been taken from both of us? Daniel didn't say anything. He didn't need to. Because we both understood, this ended it, completely. Not just legally, personally. Because now, there was nothing left to argue, nothing left to hide. I stood up slowly. What now? He asked. I looked at the file, at the recording, at everything we had built. Then, I finish it. Not loud, not emotional, final. Because 8 years ago, I was removed from a room where decisions were made. This time I was the one making them. And this time I wasn't leaving anything behind, not even her, not even the truth, especially not the truth. The final hearing wasn't dramatic. No crowd, no cameras outside. Just a room, and a list of names. Mine was back on it, for the first time in 8 years. I arrived early, not because I had to, because I wanted to see it. The room where decisions happen doesn't look powerful, it looks empty. Neutral walls, straight lines, no memory. That's what makes it dangerous. Daniel was already there. Of course he was. Same posture, same stillness, but not the same man. You're early. So are you. A small pause. Then, this is it. Not a question, a fact. I nodded, because there was nothing left to prepare. Everything had already been decided, by documents, by timing, by truth. Helena arrived 10 minutes later, alone. That surprised me. No legal team, no assistants, just her. And for the first time, she looked different. Not weak, but not untouchable anymore. Controlled, but strained. Her eyes met mine. No smile, no softness, just recognition. You've gone far, she said. I didn't respond, because this wasn't a conversation. Not anymore. We took our seats, opposite sides, same distance as before. But everything between us had changed. The hearing began. No introductions, no performance, just process. Daniel spoke first, calm, measured. He didn't rush, didn't emphasize. He just laid it out. The original document, the altered version, the forensic analysis, the timing violations. Layer by layer, until nothing was left to question. Helena didn't interrupt, didn't object, she just listened. Because she knew this wasn't something she could redirect, not here, not anymore. When it was her turn, she stood, straightened. And for a moment, I saw it, the version of her that took everything. Still there, still composed. This is a misinterpretation, she said, her voice steady. These documents are yours. Daniel didn't raise his voice, but he didn't let her continue. A pause, and so is this. He placed the final piece down, the recording. The room shifted, because audio is harder to argue with. The judge nodded. Play it. Static. Then my father's voice. I don't trust her. I didn't look at Helena. I didn't need to. I could feel it, the shift. If anything happens to me, everything freezes. Paper moving. And Alina? A longer pause. She stays. Silence, complete. Because that wasn't evidence, that was truth, undeniable. I would have given you something, she said quietly. A pause, if you had signed. There it was, the truth she never said before, not regret, calculation. I held her gaze. I was never supposed to ask. Her expression didn't change, but something behind it did. Because now, she understood, this was never about what she would give. It was about what she tried to take, and failed. She left. The door closed behind her, soft, final. I stayed seated, not because I had to, because I wanted to feel it. The end, not loud, not overwhelming, just complete. Daniel sat beside me, quiet, like always. Is it over? He asked. I thought about it, about the house, the years, the version of me that left. Then, yes, a pause, for her. He looked at me. And for you? I stood, because that answer was different. I didn't answer him right away. Because for the first time in 8 years I didn't need to. We walked out of the courtroom together. No rush, no urgency, just movement. The doors closed behind us, soft. And I felt it. Not relief, not victory, space. Like something that had been pressing against me for years had finally let go. Outside, the world looked exactly the same. People walking, cars passing, phones ringing. Unchanged. And that used to bother me. The idea that everything could fall apart and the world wouldn't even pause. But now, it didn't. Because I understood something. The world doesn't stop for you. You stop for yourself, and then you start again. Everything's been restored, Daniel said. I nodded. I know. The reports had already come in, accounts, properties, control. All of it back under my name, legally, irrevocably. 8 years undone in weeks. And still, I didn't feel what I thought I would. No rush, no satisfaction. Because this was never about getting it back, it was about proving it was never gone. We stopped at the steps. He didn't say anything. Neither did I. Because some moments don't need words. Will you go back? He asked eventually. I followed his gaze. Not to the court, further, the house. Still there, still standing, like nothing had happened. I thought about it, the hallway, the room, the night I slept on the floor. The door that closed behind me. And I realized something. That place didn't disappear when I left, I did. I don't think that place exists anymore, I said. A pause. Not for me. He nodded. No argument, no suggestion. Because he understood. Some places don't survive what happens inside them. We stood there a moment longer. Not because we had to. Because we could. What will you do now? He asked. That question felt different, not like survival, like choice. I'll keep what I built, I said. A pause, and I'll decide what to do with what was returned. Because now, it was mine, not something taken, something chosen. He nodded, then looked like he was about to leave, like this was where his part ended. Daniel. He stopped, turned back. Yes? I held his gaze, because this mattered. Not legally, personally. You stayed with it, a pause, for 8 years. He didn't respond immediately. I didn't fix it then, he said. No. You didn't. Silence. But you didn't forget either. Another pause, and this time he didn't look away. No. That was enough. Because sometimes, what someone does later doesn't erase what they didn't do before. But it changes what it means. We didn't define anything, didn't label it, because we didn't need to. We started walking, not back, forward. Different direction, different life. But something stayed with me, not the house, not the money, not even the years. A moment, a room, a signature that wasn't mine. And the truth that no matter how real a lie looks, it's still a lie. And lies don't last forever. They wait, until someone is strong enough to challenge them. This time, I was. And if you've ever been erased like that, let me ask you one thing. Would you stay silent or take your name back? Stay or take?